What's going on, traders? Welcome to the Day Trading Show. We have a very entertaining, very informative episode for you today. We're sitting down with Sam Kavanagh from Scotland. Sam runs KB Trading. It's a very well-known firm that provides trading education, research, a bunch of really cool stuff. There's links to him in the description, links to the company in the description. We talk a lot about Sam's background, his faith, his trading strategy, how he views markets. We talk about Tom, Dante, ICT, SMC, all that stuff. We cover a ton. James brings some really great questions for him as well. And I think you're going to hear some things about Sam and about his mentors and things that you've never heard before. So make sure you guys stay through till the end. There's a little special surprise at the end. And I do want to let everybody know, because we appreciate you as our audience here, there is a 3-day free trial to join us on ASFX TV in the description to this video. You can trade with me, James, Tom, Evan, our team of professional funded full-time traders. You can follow along, ask questions, and also view all the recordings of our previous streams. So if you're struggling and you're looking just to shortcut your market experience, check out ASFX TV. There's a link for that in the description. But that's all I got for you to start this thing. So sit back and enjoy this episode with Mr. Sam Kavanagh. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Day Trading Show. We have a special guest in the building, Mr. Sam Kavanagh, all the way from the center of the universe, coming in from Scotland. James is here with me as a co-host, and we're really looking forward to this conversation. So, Sam, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, man. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, man. We're very grateful for the time. We're looking forward to hearing your story, chopping it up with you. And James, thanks for giving us the time. I know you're a very busy man down under, so it's good to sit down with you. I'm a little salty that we aren't matching shirts like the last episode, right?
Yeah, mine's in the wash. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. But you saw I wore it for you, bro. You see?
Exactly.
Yeah, no. So this is good. So Sam and I and James, we're all connected through Twitter. So for our listeners, we're going to have Sam's Twitter link and everything in the description so you guys can get connected with him. But Sam's built a really successful business in a lot of different ways. I'm curious to kind of get to know your background, Sam, and the businesses you've started, the stuff you've left, how you got to the point that you got to. And I'm sure we're going to talk trading and strategy and a little bit of that stuff as well. But before we get into that, could you introduce yourself to the two people that are living under a rock and aren't connected with you on Twitter?
Yeah. So basically, I'm Sam. I'm the owner and founder of KB Trading Consultants. We've been providing education in the both retail and professional sectors for around about 3 or 4 years now. Well, probably 4 or 5 years actually. So as well as providing education, I trade full time. I do a bit of lecturing in universities and that kind of thing. Just whenever I'm requested, I'm not like, I don't work as a lecturer, but I do get invited to come and lecture finance classes and that kind of thing in universities, pretty much just in Scotland. Also speak on panels at financial expos and conferences, provide insight into topics that I'm very knowledgeable about within this niche. And yeah, my passion is just for this industry. That's about the best introduction I can give.
I love it. And I told you before this, but I'm going to say it on the podcast. I compliment you on the way that you've built your brand and the way you continue to grow it, because bro, there's so much fluff and so much BS when it comes to trading and people on the internet. I like to say there's the traders who are on the internet, and then there's internet people that become traders. And you, my friend, I'm sure are like me and James, the traders who are on the internet because we want to get connected and grow our brand, not one of these internet guys that have flipped. So take us first. I want to go a little bit further back. This is a fun question to start with. Who was Sam at 13? What kind of kid were you? Were you outgoing, entrepreneurial? Were you quiet? Were you shy? A lot of friends, not a lot of friends? Were you into money back then? Tell us who was Sam at 13?
Okay. Yeah. So 13 is probably a very interesting age to cut in my life.
Okay.
You may or may not know that was 10 years ago for me, right? So I'm 23 just now. I'm a relatively young guy. But at 13, I did have a little bit of a business kind of mindset going on. But look, I think everybody did. People, I find it a bit of like a cliche when people are on podcasts or interviews and they're like, yeah, man, I was always going to be an entrepreneur because when I was 13, I was looking for ways to make money. Yeah, so was literally everybody in their gran. Everybody when they're a teenager, before they can legally work, is looking for ways to make money. That's not why you're an entrepreneur,
100%.
So I was 13, I was selling stuff, on eBay, stuff that I'd, picked up in charity shops and that kind of thing. I was into that, I was interested in that and really enjoyed it. But 13 was a point in my life where I really started to take control of my own life. I grew up, my mum's Mediterranean, so I grew up in a house where you would have like pasta for dinner almost every night and tons of food and all that kind of stuff. I was a chubby kid, right? And when I hit about 13, I decided I didn't want to be chubby anymore. And I started to diet and, exercise and that kind of stuff regularly, and really started to take control of my life and my like image and that kind of stuff as a teenager. But that's who I was at 13. I was obsessed with the gym. I was obsessed with getting in shape, to the point where I actually went all the way to the other extreme. I went from being chubby to being like, really, really skinny. But yeah, in terms of like trading and stuff, none of that was on the horizon. I was doing what pretty much every teenage guy, was doing, talking to girls, hanging out with your mates, that kind of thing.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I think so, Sam. So what I caught from that is you started listening to Andrew Tate at 13, and then you changed.
That's a good one. No, it's
Andrew
interesting.
Tate started listening to me at 13.
There it is. That's what it is.
Okay.
That's what it is. It's interesting, Sam. Like I find that a lot of the successful traders that we talk with have the same kind of story. They're like, I wasn't interested in trade. Maybe like one or two guys I've talked to had like Crudelli. I think his dad was a famous trader, right, James? Like, so he had that in his blood. But more of the like we probably sat with 60 to 100 traders now, from professionals like Steve Burns, Crudelli, these guys have been to nobodies, And I think most people get into trading without having that background, like somebody in their family pulling them into it. That's the rare people. So when in the space between 13 and 23, when did trading come into the picture?
Probably about 15.
Okay.
Trading came into the picture via the Trading 212 app. They had really aggressive marketing. I just invented a word. So yeah, I'm a scholar now as well.
We'll take it, bro. It's the Scottish slang. It's the Scottish slang.
Yeah. So we're going to use the word aggressive now, but they had super aggressive marketing tactics in around sort of 2015, where you have to remember this is before targeted ads and cookies and all that kind of stuff were getting super commonly used. So marketing for brands was still in that area where, instead of being like a really tight kind of angle of marketing where they're just targeting interested audience, it's quite broad brush still at this stage. So I'm on YouTube as like a 14, 15-year-old kid, and I'm getting hit with like Trading 212 adverts to, open a trading account and all that kind of stuff. Completely irrelevant to me, had no interest in it. But when I saw they were offering like free $10,000 accounts, I was like, yeah, sure, let's try this out. Played about with it. Mates at school were like, look at trading legend. And yeah, that spurred me on. Like, the fact other people thought it was cool.
That's awesome. That's very interesting. So, because I feel like here, when I was 15, nobody was talking about trading in the States that I knew about. I didn't hear about it till I was 17, 18. And even then, like Forex as a day trading thing, even just trading Forex in general, was not very popular. Was Forex the more popular thing that people were doing in Scotland at the time, or was it stocks, or was it something else?
Nothing. None of that.
None of it.
Yeah. It was completely, I was the only person, even to this day, I know hardly any people other than the guys I introduced to trading, other than the guys I've trained and who have worked for me. I don't really know anybody else who trades.
So I'm sure that's, been a piece, at least, of the success that you found, is that you were ahead of the curve, for sure. Like, you were early on it. And what did your parents think of it? Like, did your parents support you in trading as you got into it at 15?
Well, I wasn't very overt about my interest in trading that early on. It would only come in the following years when I was already in college. And at this point, I already had my own company, which is unrelated to finance. I had a manufacturing company when I was about 16 or 17.
What?
And yeah.
What were you manufacturing?
So, radio antennas for military style radios.
Really? And how did you figure that out at 16, bro?
Yeah.
Every other 16-year-old is chasing girls, bro, and you're out here building radio antennas for the military. Like, don't just brush over that like it's nothing.
remember, I was chasing girls when I was 13, so I was already ahead of the curve on that. So I was like, yeah. Right. So no, basically, I used to play a sport called airsoft.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's kind of like paintball.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I done that at I started that when I was about 11 years old. By the time I was, 16, I was doing that at a very high standard. I was doing military simulation events, and communication was an issue that we had over long distances. My dad worked in construction for most of my childhood. So he would have like tape measures lying around the house, yellow steel bendy tape measures or measuring tapes, whatever you want to call them. And basically I cut one up, I sanded it down. I knew how to use a soldering gun and stuff like that because, soldering irons is pretty basic stuff. But I soldered one of my radio antennas into this steel blade and wrapped it all in black heat shrink. And now I had a foldable radio antenna that you could extend up, because a tape measure, if you hold up a tape measure and let it go, it'll spring up. So started making them. People wanted to buy them, selling them in Facebook groups. Before I knew it, within the space of a year, that company was probably, every time I would launch, I was probably making about £5,000 to £8,000 a
Profit?
month.
Profit?
Probably about, out of that, the profit margins were very, very high.
That's what I figured.
I actually ended up, I used to buy the tape measures from a hardware store and cut them up, sand them down, all that kind of stuff, until there was a bit of a scandal, shall we say, when someone was at an event and something happened that the heat shrink burst open, and when they realized there was a tape measure inside, they were like upset about it. And I'm like, well, I don't know where else to get the steel. Like at that time, I was paying £3 for a tape measure, and that would make one antenna. I ended up going straight to the manufacturer that produced the steel for all of these, building companies, and using the architectural software that I had been using at college, because I was in college studying architecture at this point in time, I was able to produce specification sheets to send to this manufacturer for them to produce the steel directly for me. And so I was able to get the steel even cheaper and build these antennas for a very cheap price, maybe like £5, and sell them for 75. So the profit margins were huge.
Oh my God, bro. That is huge. Those margins are crazy. Did you do something like this, James, when you were a kid?
Yeah.
I didn't.
Not a chance.
Not a chance, bro. Sam, my background is when I was 16, 17, I started DJing weddings and bar mitzvahs. And that grew, and that was my first business that I really was involved in, where I was working on the weekends, making good money on the weekends, where all my friends were partying. So I did that even when I got into trading. I kept that job for a while to keep income coming in. So I had no intent of like building a product or starting. So that's very impressive that you had the mind for that. So when you started KB, what was the motivation for that? Like, were you trading successfully and people just wanted to know what you were doing and you were like, let me start a business around this now because there's a problem and I can solve this problem? Or did you get into trading knowing you wanted to start an education business?
I got into trading thinking that it was going to be easy money. I didn't get into trading thinking there'll be a business opportunity at some point here. But yeah, I mean, I got into trading thinking that I was literally going to be cleaning house. And I got into trading probably in a similar way to most people. I got into trading via signals from one of those internet traders that we spoke about earlier. Now, when I got into signals, my parents were not on board. They were like, you're going to pay someone and they're going to give you trades to put on. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, that doesn't sound right. Why would they be giving you the trades to put on? And I'm like, because I'm paying them. And they're like, yeah, but did they not just put more money on the trades and make more money? And I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about, boomer. So that was a bit of a fail. But when KB trading came along, I did see there was an opportunity to make money there. And we did have a group where we sent out trades and that kind of stuff and sent out analysis. And that has stayed all of this time. but today we wouldn't call it like signals. We send out trade ideas and analysis, on a daily basis for our Discord members, but we never intended, or we don't intend to be like something where people just come along, put some money in a brokerage account, sign up through our partner broker, and then make money. That's not the way we run things. Our focus is really on the education. But yeah, KB was just this little kind of thing that just kind of ticked along. And then in 2020, when I first started releasing YouTube videos, right at the start of the pandemic, right? So right at the start of the pandemic, I released a day in the life video. And it just so happened that in that period, day in the lives were like the most searched for thing on the internet, because people were wanting to see what's it like to go through this pandemic over in China or here or there. So people are sitting at home, they can't do anything. They want to live someone else's life who's not locked up. And that video blew up. And, before I knew it, KB was somewhat of a recognized brand within the space.
That's, smart marketing from the beginning here, bro. Before we even got on the call, you're like, I'm not that great of a marketer. It's like right there again, you're capitalizing on keywords and trends and things that are popular.
It was an accident.
That's okay.
It was genuinely like that's one thing in business and in trading. I have had some of the luckiest mistakes. I have had too much luck at this point, to the point where I'm like, at some point this is going to turn around and my mistakes are going to start costing me a lot of money.
You would think that, bro, but I really believe luck is opportunity meeting discipline, hard work, and having it come together for you. And I think the mindset of this is going to turn around for me is what keeps you humble and will keep your business growing. I really believe that. All right, everybody, we're back after a quick technical change. So Sam, James was talking with me while you were switching the Wi-Fi. He said he was curious to know, because we didn't ask you, what's the university background? Because you come off like such a sharp guy. So do you have a degree? Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it would be cool to say that I've got like, some crazy degree and, I'm a super highly educated guy, but I'm not, I studied architecture for 2 years at college. I didn't even go to uni. I studied at college for a year and a half, 2 years. And I ended up leaving because my other business was doing very well. And I saw it as like, this is the way I described it to my parents. I said, look, it's like my little baby. And at this point, it needs nourishment and attention to grow. And, I could continue with college and finish this second year and always have something to fall back on, because I'll have this qualification. Or, and, potentially risk this baby, if you will, perishing, or I focus my attention onto the baby and try and give it the best run as possible. And worst comes to worst, I can come back to college and pick up those modules again. I ended up leaving before even getting my full qualification for architecture. So
bro, we're the same. I dropped out when so it's different here. I was 3 years into college. I had 1 year left and I left then. Right. My whole experience with university, bro, I was like trying to find what I wanted to do. My DJ business was on the weekends. I was still just making.
Sorry, just for you guys.
Rub it in, bro. Rub it in, bro. That's so funny. James is like over here thinking like I'm the most educated. Meanwhile, look at him. He's got the clip-on tie behind his chair. Come on.
I know.
No, but I was the same, Sam. Like I had to talk. My parents did not like and understand what I wanted to do with trading at the time, but my parents knew I had money coming in from my other business, so they were like, reluctant, but they were like, you do whatever you want to do. So I felt the same. I was like, I could come back to college at any time. I could go back today, but the business at that moment, you got to seize the opportunity. So I can totally relate to that. And I think it takes somebody like you or me, like entrepreneurial, who was willing to take the risk, right? That's really what an entrepreneur is, and leave and take the path less traveled at that point for the betterment of your future, which it clearly worked out for you,
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead, James. Sorry.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask Sam. So on that point then, Sam, so you had all these business ventures, right? How did you get into trading after school, after these businesses and everything? When did you start taking it seriously? Like you're like, okay, cool, I can maybe trade, as a career and make money long term in this business. When was that realization? And then so that's the first question. And then the second one is, I know you kind of trading on like more of a higher time frames, like 1 hour daily charts. I see you posting the daily charts.
Yeah.
And your trading strategy seems pretty simple in the technical analysis. Engulfing candles of key levels, stuff like that I've seen. So maybe just speak a little bit about when the trading became like you realized you're going to do this full time as a career, and then a little bit about your trading strategy that you're using now.
Yeah. So effectively, trading started to look like a real possibility for an income after I had taken, unsurprisingly, my first kind of education within the markets. Once I actually started to understand swing trading and that kind of thing, I started to really see that there was a possibility to make money in the markets. I do remember speaking to a guy that I sat next to in college. I remember speaking to him about trading. It's a very, very vague memory. He was much older than I am. I still keep in touch with him to this day, but he was very, very skeptical about it. Very, very skeptical about it. And it was actually a guy who I played airsoft with, a much older guy who was on my team. And he traded as well. He wasn't a serious trader or anything like that. He had, maybe 20 grand in a trading account, just kind of played about with it. But he sent me a video from Tom Dante. Back in 2017, Tom Dante released a YouTube video, maybe earlier than 2017. I couldn't pinpoint exactly the year or the month that I first watched it, but it was called Stop Moaning and Start Improving. And I watched that and it just resonated with me so much. And it was a short while after that I really began to feel that I had the grasp of trading and the things had clicked. And really, it went year in, year out after that. I just seemed to go from strength to strength. And then basically my strategy, what I had kind of learned, I had adapted and continued to build upon. But when I really started to introduce the kind of trading that I'm doing now, was actually only a few years ago. So there was no necessity for me to change my trading strategy. I actually initially began to look at Tom Dante's education at the start of 2020. I had seen him for years, I'd known about him for years, and I was happily trading a different strategy. And I actually picked up his course to learn his short-term approach for trading futures. It was only whilst looking at his short-term future stuff that I saw his sort of slightly longer term approach to FX, and I started to study that more. And I did, trade that for a little while, but within probably months of doing that, I really began to take just the core ideas and turn it into my own thing. Tom's a very discretionary trader. He's an excellent trader. I keep in touch, me and Tom speak relatively regularly, but he's a very discretionary trader. And in all honesty, I personally don't feel that is the optimal way to approach the markets. Certainly not for me. I want something that's evidence-backed. I want something that has a lot of data and statistics behind it. And, in all fairness to Tom, even though he is a discretionary trader, the stuff he trades does have a statistical framework, which is good. I wanted to take things to a slightly different direction and take an approach where everything I do in the markets I can pull you up an Excel spreadsheet and explain to you why my stops go there. I can explain to you why I exit after this happens. I can explain to you why I trade these assets and not 15 different assets. So my trading approach now is what I would call mechanical price action, right? Or, you could call it a number of different things, or data-backed price action. I basically trade technical principles, but these technical principles I have been rigorously back tested. I've gathered the statistics. I've built different entry models and stuff like that, and tested them, refined them, optimized them to get them to a stage where they're not only as profitable as they can be, because something being profitable isn't always what you're looking for when you go down the data route, and this might shock some people. I'm more interested in a strategy being robust than I am in it being profitable. So that is to say, if I do a back test and I find a strategy that makes 100R in 3 years and the strike rate is 75%, but then I test that same strategy on the 3 years prior and it makes 5R and the strike rate is 50%, what that indicates to me is that I have over-optimized the strategy and the filters for the most recent 3-year sample, and potentially it's no longer very robust. So I've maybe tweaked things, optimized things. What I would then do in that situation is peel back some of the layers, whether it be confluences or whatever, and get that to a stage where in this 3 years, instead of making 100R with a 70% strike rate, it maybe makes 40R with a 40% strike rate. But in the 3 years prior, now instead of having a terrible strike rate and only making 5R, it makes similar to what it does in the following 3 years. So that would indicate to me that that strategy is robust. So people are probably listening to this like, this just sounds so boring, this just sounds horrific, but that is what I do all day, every day. I sit on Excel spreadsheets, refining and optimizing things and testing things. That is where the work is for me in trading. Time on the charts, hardly any time at all. All of my time is spent in Excel crunching numbers.
That's very important that you bring that up. I really appreciate you saying that, because I would say when people hear me and James talk about, we want you to generate, of course, back testing for sure, but even just generating more ideas than you trade, like for a new trader, they're like, why? I should just be trading. I should just be on the chart. But guys like yourself, look at Bellafiore, look at Tom Dante. These are guys that preach spending more time in your testing and on your ideas than on your actual trading. So, and even beyond that, you brought up a great point that good trading, great trading is normally boring. If it's exciting, that gets into like, I think where you kind of closer, if not cross the line of like gambling. It shouldn't induce that type of excitement, you know? So I'm curious, because you made me think, Sam, what's your take on trading emotions? Are you trying to control your emotions, or are you trying to suppress them? Do you use them as trigger points, or do you try to ignore them?
I used to take a pretty hard line position on this. I always say, or think to myself, if you follow me on social media, you'll see me absolutely rant about trading emotions and trading psychology and that kind of stuff. For the most part, I think it's made up. I think for the most part, the psychology that people have is getting in their head about psychology. So that is to say, they're losing money, and instead of looking at the charts and looking at their journal, they start delving deep into the recesses of their mind, and before you know it, they're reading some self-help book written by a Buddhist monk who's advising that they microdose LSD. You're like, mate, are you having a laugh? Like, just pull up your journal and we'll see what you're doing wrong. Like, your profit factor's 0.6. It's no wonder you're not making money. And they're like, trying to do affirmations in the mirror. Like, you can stand and look at yourself in the mirror for as long as you want and continually say to yourself, I am the best trader in the world. I'm the best trader in the world. I promise you, it's not going to make you a better trader. And some people really need to hear that. You can go and do yoga. We had a trader who worked for us. I absolutely love the guy, right? I absolutely love him. This is not, and that's why I won't mention his name. I don't want to be disrespectful, but he used to sit and sit cross-legged in the morning and look at a candle to like calm his mind.
Yeah, it's called candle gazing. I actually am certified as a yoga teacher. We had to do it in my training. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so if you just want to leave, and me and James will continue the rest of
the Yo, that was good, bro. That was good. But you're right. I totally agree with you, just so you know.
Yeah, the only episode where the host gets kicked off by a guest.
It's okay. It's okay. It's good. That's good for the internet people will love that. Sam kicks Austin off the podcast and takes over the day trading show.
Yeah, but anyway, so
he sat there staring at the candle.
Yeah.
And he thought it would make him trade better, right? It thought it would keep his mind calm.
Yeah. Now, I believe prevention is better than cure.
Yeah, I agree.
So here's the thing. Yoga and breathing exercises and all these kind of things, affirmations, I think, and this is probably the first time I've ever said this publicly, you know what? I think they probably do work. But in this sense, when you've done yourself a lot of hurt in trading, you've had a big losing streak or something like that, sitting and telling yourself, it's not the end of the world. You can pull this back. You can do this. You know, happy days. If you want to do that, perfect. If you need to sit and do some breathing exercises to chill out, fine. But that's not even a cure. All you're doing there is you're treating some of the symptoms of a different problem, right? You know, it's like I can't think of an example, but
no, but you said that very well. I don't think we need an example because that is very true. You might be curing some of the frustration. It might go away and you might be able to, like you said, move on to the next trade. But did you really look at the data to solve the problem of what was in it? Like, why did you blow out? Why did you take, you know? So yeah, I think it's got to be a mix. Like trading is an art and a science, right? It is a little bit of a mix.
That's exactly what it is. So effectively the core illness that's causing you these symptoms like lack of confidence and all that is just bad trading. So sort that out. Yes, you can treat some of the symptoms. That's probably going to be beneficial. It's probably going to be helpful. But the more productive thing is to get to the root of the issue. I cannot have peace of mind until I can look at some data, you know, on my screen and see what I'm doing actually works, irrespective of me or my trading decisions. So as an example, when I use active trade management, I don't believe in taking partials. I don't believe in moving stops to break even. I think they're both, I say things in a very dogmatic manner because I believe the things that I say effectively, right? But
yeah, you should.
Ultimately, you know, taking partials and that kind of thing, I don't do that. What I do is I trail stops. But I have tested my strategy with my management and I've tested my strategy without management over 15 assets over 7 years. I know that my strategies make money without my intervention, and they make a lot of money without my intervention. However, I do intervene in my daily trading in order to, you know, reduce drawdowns and that kind of thing, in order to, you know, keep an eye on exposure, basically. But I want a strategy that works irrespective of my trading decisions. What that tells me is the trading idea itself works.
Right.
If I have a day where my management isn't great, it still works. If I have a month where my management isn't great, it's still going to make money. That's what I'm looking for, you know, in a strategy.
Yeah. How many strategies are you working at once?
So currently I trade two higher time frame strategies, but I have probably 2 or 3 more that are close to being ready to go.
So when you say you're spending all your time trading and really on these 2 strategies and then doing the testing, what's a normal day look like for you? Run us through like a day in the life of Sam.
Yeah, so basically I wake up before I go to sleep. You know, I do my yoga in the morning and breathing exercises.
Come on, bro. Get out of here, bro. Sam's lying, bro. Sam goes and sits in his Mercedes, and that's what he does for his mindset and motivation. He's like, I need another one of these.
Yeah. Anyway, so I go for my 25K run.
Okay.
And
backwards. You run it backwards, right? I'm pretty sure you run it.
I do.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, I do it blindfolded as well, just to give everybody else a chance.
Right.
And then, you know, usually I'm back within half an hour, have like 10 or 11 liters of water.
A cigar. I know you smoke a cigar in there too.
Yeah, but I do that. Yeah, I do that on the way back home. And then, you know, I come in and I just make money all day. And that's it. Look at my massive watch collection, count money. No, and in all honesty, you know, people think, you know, they see this on Instagram, don't they? Yeah, this guy, he wakes up at 4:30 and he listens to a David Goggins podcast and does 3,000 push-ups. I get up at like 7. Myself and my wife will usually, you know, around 8 o'clock. Now, this is different to how my life used to be. I used to be in the office for quarter to 7, right? For the European Open, the Eurex Open, when I traded futures. Right. But now I'm not. I used to run a trading floor. I've run multiple trading floors in Glasgow. At the moment, I'm trading from home. I have been for this year. So my average day, I wake up at 7. You know, I'll go through to the other room. I read my Bible and pray first thing in the morning. And then my wife comes through about 8 a.m. We will read together and pray together before she goes out to work for the day. And at the moment, I'm taking her to work. So I'll be back here, ideally 8:45, sit down, look over my markets, members call at 10 a.m. and then do little bits of admin throughout the sort of morning, have lunch, maybe go to the gym in the afternoon. And if I'm not doing that, I'll spend more time on, whether it's doing some media stuff or whether it's refining and spending time on strategies. Evenings are pretty different for me. Some evenings during the week, we have like church services and that kind of thing. Other than that, we like to chill out and watch a movie from time to time. I'm really into movies. My wife doesn't really have that many,
Same,
she really
bro.
likes.
Same. Yeah. It's so annoying because I reference movies all the time and my wife doesn't get it. And then she doesn't want to sit down and watch it. Bro, my wife hasn't even seen all the Star Wars movies, Lord of the Rings, nothing. She's living under a rock.
Right. My wife hasn't seen Lord of the Rings, but it's on the list.
It'll be on the list for both of our wives. We'll let them hang out. You and me will go trade. They both need to sit down and watch it. So we talked about your trading a little bit. We talked about your daily routine. First question, before we get into some of the stuff you tweet, because I know James has questions about the tweets and stuff. Why did you decide to leave the office and come working from home? Why did you decide to leave the trading floor? Yeah,
it's a great question. It's actually something that I've not really spoken about too much on social media. But for the majority of my professional career, I've traded from an office. Into 2021, we hired a team of traders. We had, probably 12 guys. And it was like pulling teeth. It was very, very difficult to keep these guys, disciplined and that kind of thing. And it was really stressing me out, in all honesty. It was affecting my own trading. It was affecting the company. These guys weren't bringing in money. So it was just an expense. And they were kind of wasting my time, I felt. So in order to preserve the company and my own trading and that kind of stuff, I decided to scale down things. So I got rid of half of the team, and myself and 5 other guys moved office to our most recent sort of office that you would have seen. Beautiful office right in the center of Glasgow. And we had a really good, solid core team. We built strategies together. We developed ideas together. We went out to eat together and all that kind of stuff. We were a really tight unit. And, one thing, or another, people started dropping off out of that core team. Whether it be guys were, pretty much there and they decided they wanted to try and go it alone for a bit, or whether it be guys were actually doing pretty well and they wanted to be funded with a different firm or something like that. Or one of the guys was actually hired to run the sort of customer service side. He didn't want to do that anymore. And one thing or another, the team just started to sort of drop away. And I thought, I am not going to spend the next however long building up a team again, finding the right guys, and then pour 2 years of my time into these guys to get them to the stage, because that's what I done. I got a team of guys and I spent 2 years, of time on them. And then they got to a stage where they didn't really need me anymore and they could do their own thing. And I thought, yeah, that's a mistake I'm not going to make again. So I probably will make that mistake again. I'll probably do that all over again at some point. I have that itch to go back. And
I was going to say, don't you miss the guys though? Like the team and the people around you? Like, don't you miss that?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I still keep in touch with, of course, pretty much all of them. We still hang out, and that kind of thing. In fact, Tim, who was like my right-hand guy, he came with me to pick up my new car and all that kind of stuff. So we still remain relatively tight. Some of the guys I have over to my apartment, from time to time and that kind of thing. But they're such great guys that I'm never going to be able to replace them. So there's no point in trying to build another team, at least for now. Yeah. So, I say that after this goes out, I'll probably get like 100 emails from people like, I'll be that guy.
Right. 100%, bro. I get emails like that all the time. And it's different because I think when you've seen the side of it where you're in the office and the value of it, but you're also trying to run the business in terms of profit and time, there is very few businesses like trading when it comes to making money and trading from home, especially. Your overhead can be so low. Your margins can be even better than your margins with your antennas that you were selling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. The thing that we need to remember is when I'm running that trading floor, the guys are paying a monthly fee for all of their kit because I provide all their kit and that kind of thing. So they have an expense going out every month. They have the expense of traveling into the city centre and parking. And, I mean, I paid £3,000 for the year for just 2 parking spaces in town.
That's pretty expensive. I mean, that's like almost, I'm sure, like New York or something, like a major city here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glasgow is coming up. Glasgow's turning into a pretty serious city. Barclays have just built a campus across from where I work or where the office is, that will house 15,000 people.
Wow.
So there's a lot of like finance and investment coming into Glasgow.
Future talent for the next team.
Yeah, exactly. I actually have a great relationship with Barclays. I have a great relationship with a lot of sort of more professional and institutional side of.
What would you give credit to that for? Would it be your connections of the people you've met and how you've grown your business? Is that it?
Yeah, I think something that's unique about myself, although I'm a young guy, I don't give off a young guy kind of persona or image.
Not at all.
I've always been very, very mature, and older, even down to the way I dress. There's guys my age in this industry that were in, Versace and, big gold Rolexes on and all that kind of stuff. And people look at that and they run a mile. They've got like, no offense to anyone, but they've got like, limited edition Yeezy trainers on or something like that, off-white trainer, something like that. And I'm like, come on, man, you're like 25, right. Grow up a little bit. But again, there's no hate against any of that. But I've always given off a bit more of a professional image. I always dress sharp and that kind of thing. And even my approach to trading and that kind of thing, people notice that.
They do.
And, that kind of thing is what, as I'm sure you're aware, I was on the panel for the Financial Magnates London Summit back in November.
I saw that.
I was up with the owner of FTMO and that kind of thing. That was a phenomenal conference. You had lots of investment bank traders there. You had institutional brokerages and that kind of thing there. When I actually got the invite to come and speak on that panel, I was pretty surprised. It's the biggest finance event in the UK, if not Europe. And, not only had I been invited to attend, but actually to speak, on a panel at it. I was blown away by that. But I think that I owe that to the image that I put out there. And, ultimately, if you want to be considered and regarded a professional, you have to be a professional. You also have to look professional and sound professional as well. And that's going to hold you in a good stead. I mean, I've picked up private investors and stuff like that as well for trading simply through that. Yep. People are never going to trust a 20-year-old or a 19-year-old or a 21-year-old just across the board. If you dress like you're 25, people are going to trust you. Yep. And I know that from the first time I was asked to lecture in a university. I was only 20 years old. And, I went to
basically a student.
Yeah. I went to Hugo Boss. I went and bought a suit, and people there, I was lecturing people who were 24, 25. And after we went down to the bar, on campus, just for a drink afterwards. And when people asked what age I was, they were blown away. They were really, really blown away. But I think
so. It's about how you carry yourself, really, and I think that's why people love you. That's why you've built the attention that you've got right now, because you're a much better role model, than the guy who is wearing that stupid Rolex. And like you said, is the institutional investor going to care about your watch or about your track record and the robustness of the strategy that you've built? It's just a different approach, bro. So let's talk about this for a second, because you've never been shy to, even today on the call, never been shy to share your opinion, even if you tried to throw a mutiny and take over the podcast. So tell me what's your thoughts on these guys, because we see them all over, the SMC guys all over Twitter, basically making it seem like if you don't trade SMC, you're an idiot and you're never going to make money trading. We don't trade. Me and James are not anyway affiliated with SMC. I ICT, XXX, whatever it is, bro. Like I ain't got none of the, you know. So what's your initial thought when you see this? Do you feel bad for these newer guys that get roped into that mindset, or like, is that why you tweet the things that you do to kind of hopefully break them out?
Yeah. Initially I used to take, again, I've become a lot more gracious over the past few years. Yeah, it may not sound like it, but
dude, it's funny because like I can't even imagine at 20 years old what you were doing then. You must have been just bulldozing through people at 20. Yeah, you know.
Sam's been praying for patience.
That's it.
I have. It's no lie, honestly. I like as a Christian, the daily objective, you know, is to be more like Christ was, right? And that's what a Christian is. It's someone who follows him. So there are times where I tweet something and I'm like, you know, angry, like, you know, tweeting, and then I'm just like, conviction just comes and I'm like, delete. And
you're like, I don't want to go to hell. I'm trying not to go to hell. I'm trying to go up. I'm trying not to go down.
It's not just that. I have a responsibility, you know, as someone is open about my faith. I have a responsibility to, and you know, I fail at that all the time, but I do have a responsibility to try and be, not seem like I'm salty or gossipy or anything like that, or like I wish someone's harm, because ultimately I do wish, you know, I would have it that everybody could, you know, make money in the market. So obviously that's not going to happen, but my approach to SMC used to be just like, it used to get under my skin, because I'm like, what is all this nonsense about institutional trading and all that? Like, I'm at conferences with institutional traders and I speak to them about some price action pattern and they're like, what is that? You know what I mean? Like they're trading EMAs, right? They're trading EMA crossovers, you know?
Right.
And people are like, that blows people's minds. They think, you know, institutional traders sitting there programming some secret algorithm.
It's like a keyword, bro. It's like a keyword that these internet guys can use to make people that don't know any better think they're getting some exclusive thing. It sounds better.
Yeah. Just a reality check for everyone. If you're listening to this podcast right now, you are a retail trader.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter how you trade, you are still retail. No, even if you think you have an institutional strategy, you can think that. But like Sam just said, if you get with guys that are institutional traders, it's probably not what they're doing.
No, I mean, people think retail is an insult.
Right. I don't understand that.
Yeah. It's like, what? It's like, you know, you watch Formula One. So when you're driving around, you're like, I'm a race car driver. I'm a race car driver. I'm not, you know, I mean, like,
you're right, bro. But you know, and that's one of the things I think the internet stuff, like the trading space online, like, for example, bro, when I got into trading, everybody said indicators don't work. Indicators don't work. And in my head, I was like, maybe you just don't know how to use them. You're using them for the wrong purpose. So it's like people box these ideas in trading in as definites, and they're not like that. It's just not true. So when you see these guys, I think it's a lot of the time they have a belief, they've held on to it, and they're not willing to be open-minded to say, maybe there is another way to view this that I could learn. You know, they just stop learning. I think that's kind of what it is.
The funny thing is, I don't know if it's red pill or blue pill, whichever one is like supposed to be open-mindedness, whatever. I've not watched The Matrix. And I'm not into all that, like red pill, blue pill, whatever it is. But it's the very people who think that they're open-minded, they're the most narrow-minded people in human existence. They're like, I am open-minded. That's why I think that this is the only way you can make money in the markets. It's like,
come on, bro. And you use the word only in the next sentence. It's like, what are you talking about? Right. You're so right.
That's exactly what they're like as well. But
and I mean, you've been around, Sam, so you know there's probably, if you had to put a number to it, how many trading strategies that are profitable have existed or could exist? What is the number?
Infinite.
Exactly, bro. So if you understand that there is an infinite amount of trading strategies that could be built, tested, optimized, and used, why are these people on the internet so aggressive in trying to be like, this is the only way to do it? It's crazy.
Yeah. It's a bit like a cult type attitude. if you think this is the dream, right? You're a failing trader, and someone comes alongside you and goes, mate, the reason you've been failing is because the banks, right? The banks have an algorithm that's there to make you not make money. And you're like, oh, so
Right.
it's not just that it's not just that I'm a terrible trader that's lazy.
They're out to get me.
It's actually because they're out to get me. And it's like, well, what shall I do? And the person's like, don't worry.
Come behind the curtain.
I know the algorithm.
Right.
Oh, of course you do.
Thank God you're here. Right.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to teach you it for free on YouTube. And they're like, of course you are. Of course you are. Right. And dude, I mean, now we're talking about ICT now, right? And like, I see these videos, bro. Like, I look you up. I look up all my guests. You look me up. There's nobody that does hour-long videos trying to expose me or you. This dude's got a ton of videos of people trying to expose him. That should be the first red flag. You know what I'm saying? But you know what it is, Sam? And I'm sure you would agree with this. If you believe something to be true, you will create a reality that you will exist within where that is a true statement. Even if the rest of us all know it's not. I mean, we see this with all the woke stuff going on right now all over the world, right? These people are babied and they're given permission to say, I identify as a zebra. Okay, everyone else out here knows you're not a fucking zebra, but you can think that. And I think that's like the issue is that some of these traders think that this is the reality that we all agreed upon, even though we're all over here saying the same facts, the same things, but not agreeing with what they say. And they continue to operate in there. And I think, it's interesting because you see some success stories that give credit to these guys that lead these kind of cult-ish groups. Yeah.
And that makes me wonder, like, did they just get lucky? That kid, like there's some of these kids that are younger than you, bro, that are crushing it with these guys. I'm like, did they just happen to find their own way like you and I did from the mentor and kind of make their own thing, but they're giving that guy the credit? Because it can't be copy and paste and it's working. Otherwise, because they've got hundreds of thousands of followers on YouTube, everyone would be making money. The market would be broken. They would have broken the banks by now, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, and I won't say, I'll be careful how I say this, but let's say you learn how to trade and you've watched some of a guy's videos, right? And you've implemented some of his concepts, but you don't really trade his stuff. But now you want to grow a brand, and he's already grown a brand. What is the quickest way? I mean, the logical solution is to go, thank you so much for, and he's just going to pump out your stuff. And before you know it, you've got 20,000 followers on Twitter. And now you have your own paid service.
Dude, for not being a marketing guy, Sam, you get marketing, bro. Like, you get it.
I get it because, like, trading Twitter, financial Twitter is just like marketers everywhere. But, here's the thing. Ultimately, when it comes to ICT, the guy's a bit of like a walking meme now for me. I do find it kind of funny. But look, here's what I'll say. In all fairness to him, I used to think this guy's just a charlatan. He's just a scammer and all that. And by the way, I'll be honest, I still know for a fact the majority of his stories are lies. He didn't get kidnapped by the people who run the markets. I don't know if you've heard this story. I recently spoke about
what did you just say, bro?
Have you not seen this?
No, bro. I don't mess with these guys at SMC, IC. I don't mess with any of the 3-letter things, bro. FBI, CIA, I stay away.
DA, yeah. So he released a story years ago where he got
on YouTube, like this was a YouTube video?
No, he wrote this out.
Okay.
And for the longest time, he didn't reveal his face.
Right. I knew that.
And he said it was because, effectively he was exposing stuff that he wasn't supposed to be telling people about. And this is when it was a lot more credible. But he had put out a story that he had been put in the back of a van and taken to a secret facility. And, they'd shown him the secrets to the markets and all that kind of stuff. And they told him if he told anyone, his logo is like the fib sequence, and that was the passcode to get into this, wherever it was,
bro.
And hey, it sounds like the start of a good movie. Like,
that's what I would. This is like Jason Bourne.
Yeah. So I can't believe more people haven't heard this. I think he would have a lot less fans if people had read this. But I've been here for a while. I've been like part of the furniture. I'm like the IKEA lamp sitting in the corner. Right. I just observing things happening, right?
Yep.
But And he also, when I came on the scene, you know, back in the day, he had actually been kind of chased off Twitter for posting a fake MT4 withdrawal. He'd forgotten to Photoshop in the minus sign in front of the 5 million. I'm sure you saw that. And it was public for like a week before anyone noticed. So everyone had screenshots of it. And he just kind of off he went. And then he came back, you know, after COVID and all that, when there was a resurgence of trading. But ultimately, apart from that, I can't say, oh, it's all just evil, it's all just terrible. I think ICT stuff is a great, like, I'm never going to hate on baby pips, right? Because it's free education for beginners. And likewise, ICT's education isn't for trading professionals. The people who do that are young guys. They're people who would otherwise be doing signals or something like that. They're getting taught for free concepts that, you know, seem to actually work. Is it going to make them a professional trader? I'm doubtful. You know, in some cases it may. The same way Baby Pips has probably made some professional traders, but it's not the kind of, you know, across the board. But ultimately, if a beginner came to me and said, I don't have any money to spend on education, I probably wouldn't hesitate in saying ICT or babypips.com or something like that is going to provide you some kind of structure to learn. Yeah.
So your real beef is with the stories, with the marketing. That's where it rubs you the wrong way. Like, bro, don't lie to me and tell me you got thrown in a van. They told you the story and then they let you out and now you're blabbing about it.
They let you share it on YouTube for free. That's
But they take Andrew Tate away for saying, tell your girl to make you a sandwich or whatever. They should take ICT away, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's good marketing. You know what I mean? And, you know, there's guys like, bro, like I've got stories I could tell you in another time. Like some of them, I call them the internet boys, bro. They're just the marketers, the internet boys. Like if it wasn't trading, they probably would be doing the same shit just in a different way. I'll tell you this, Sam, listen to this. Cause I'm sure, have you ever been to Miami, Sam?
No.
Okay. Miami, bro, is a different place. So I have a video guy. Miami's 4 hours from me. I live in a beautiful place in Florida. Like it's way more chill. Miami is just different, bro. It's wild. The people there are insane. So I have a guy who does my video stuff. He comes from a different part of Florida. His second shooter is from Miami. So we're hanging out after we do the video shoot a few months ago. And he tells me that his boy, and some guy he knows in Miami, hits him up and says, hey, bro, whenever you want to get into scamming, just let me know. We're doing Forex this week, and then we're doing credit cards next week. So there's people on earth, bro, in Miami especially, this is Miami, where it's not even just fake it till you make it. It's scam the shit out of people until your name is in the gutter and probably just use a fake name and then recycle and get a new haircut and go do it again. Go make a new page. So there's people out there now, bro, that are like, you're a principled guy, Sam, for a young dude, very principled. I can tell, like, from your faith to your business, you're extremely principled, extremely well-moraled. There's people that are 150% the opposite of you, 180 degrees the opposite of you, and they exist in the same business that we do. And some of them have more followers than you and me put together. And it's crazy. But you know what the difference is, bro? And this is the truth. Where these guys will disappear and come back, disappear and come back. I'm sure that some of your students that have gotten the payouts that I've seen on your page where you're reposting it, they know and they trust you because you've never disappeared. You've been consistent the whole time. You've not gotten involved in drama. And that's the same reason people like me and James, we don't entertain any of that stuff when they try to suck us in on Twitter and whatever. You don't entertain it. You don't get involved. You stay in your lane. You stay consistent. So I think that there's going to be in every industry, in every corner of the earth, people that are just looking to get one up on the next person. You know, that's just human. It's human nature. I think you said it very well too. It's a lot of these younger guys. You don't hear any older guys talking about these internet boys and talking them up, but you're connected really well with institutional money, institutional traders. I'm connected with a lot of these retail traders that have been really well known over the last couple of years. Yeah. Then there's the internet guys that are like just Instagram gurus, I call them, and they're just connected in their own little circle. And what's sad about that, to me, more than anything else, is the guys that you and I are connected with are an email or a phone call away. They are more than willing, majority of the time, to sit down and talk and share. The guys that have lost tens of millions, hundreds of millions, made every mistake and recovered it. Those guys are willing to share. They're normal people for the most part. Some of them, of course, they want to remain anonymous. But these other guys don't see that. They choose to go this other path when the path that would actually educate them and get them thinking like the legends, the guys who have made it work, it's there. It's right there. You just chose to go a different way. And it makes it easier for guys like you and me to get to know them and to get around them, you know? It's so we'll take advantage without even doing anything, you know?
The thing is, like, you can't blame a beginner trader for enjoying a good story.
100%.
I mean, it's interesting to think that the markets are run by some evil organization and you're like, you know, getting trained like some kind of Jedi to like fight against the forces of darkness. Like, that is it. Listen, I would be much more motivated to get out of my bed every morning if that was the case.
100%.
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah. If you need to believe that story to get out of bed in the morning, then, you know,
Sam, but I listened to that you had a thread on it. You had a thread on it last year sometime about it's like you know, break and retest, but it's like put in a story mode because most of the guys are younger too.
Everybody's catching on to that. Yeah, everybody's
game. But
the meme that went all over the internet last week was someone posted an ICT thing and it was like something about a breaker block and everybody in the Twitter comments is like, isn't this just a break and a retest?
Yeah. But I also saw last year that you did mute all on Twitter, RCT and SNC like forever. Like you can mute the words and that too. So that's probably why you haven't been involved that much this year. It was probably a New Year's resolution, right?
I've muted like FVG and like order block,
fair value. Yep.
Just all of the terms that actually don't mean anything. It's like
it's a story. I mean? It's slang for a story, right?
So
go ahead, James.
So no, I wanted to just to ask specifically a little bit more of Sam's trading, but I've got two questions. So one's related to what time frame are you looking to take your trades on? That's the first one. And then the second one I wanted to ask was, I see that you've talked about private investors and you've got obviously your own capital that you're trading with. But I wanted to ask you about prop firms because that's obviously like the hot topic. Anybody can go with a prop firm. Not everybody can trade private capital, right? So, what, in your opinion, because you predominantly swing trade, what are just give me your top, you know, the prop firms top 3 prop firms that you enjoy. You can name them by name, and then and what time frame do you enjoy? What do you enjoy taking your entries on?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So entries and management I do on a 60-minute time frame. I think I'm of the belief that price is fractal in nature, meaning a strategy should work on practically any time frame to some degree. That in itself is a robustness test for an idea if it works with different variables implemented. But the hourly chart is something that's very manageable for me. I only need to check the charts once every hour. If I'm not in trades, I don't even need to check them. With regards to prop firms, I didn't have any prop firm accounts probably this time last year. Within last year, I passed, a ton. I obtained quite a few prop firm accounts. I now have probably close to $1 million in funding from prop firms, which I trade. Top firms, there's only really 2 that I would say are top firms for me, and that would be FTMO and a firm called FX2, which is operating out of Canada, or is it New York? New York, sorry. And the guy, David, who runs that, solid guy. That firm, I get my payouts, practically immediately from that firm, which is super rare. So those 2 firms, FX2 and FTMO. FX2 is very, very new firm. They only launched about 4 months ago, but I have a pretty high degree of confidence in that firm that it's going to be a big player in the future.
Nice. I like that you said that, because I have seen FTMO. I mean, they're winning like European awards, right? Stuff, and you've met the owner on that. They're pretty serious in the fact that they, like you, as you saying, we were talking earlier, you're quite a professional guy in the way that you bring in your mannerisms. They also a very professional firm in the way that they deal with their customers. They take you like it's a real serious business. Because I'm funded with FTMO, and I will agree with you. They are very, very professional. So I wanted to touch on something that you mentioned earlier. Sorry if I'm asking questions there, Austin. But something that I wanted to touch on earlier, and this is what I've been personally struggling in my trading and lately. And when I first got into trading, it was one of my flaws. And when I noticed it coming back into my trading, I tried to do exactly what actually you were speaking of. So I don't, bread and butter. We don't let our winners run, and we cut out, and we don't cut our losers early, and we don't let our winners run. What is your advice? And you were saying that you would rather not micromanage. That's my problem. Sometimes I micromanage too much. Like I micromanage instead of letting the trade either play out or getting the exit signal. What is your take on that when you're managing on the hourly chart?
I have one thing I look for to trail a stop loss in profit, and I have one thing I look for to exit a trade in loss. That's as simple as it is, and it's completely binary. If this happens, then I do this.
Is it technical based or is it math based? Is the thing
it's
like
all completely technical based. Okay. The reason it wouldn't be math based, for example, people might say like, once the trade is up 1 hour, then trail a stop.
Sure.
The problem with that is the ATR, the average true range of every day, is going to be different. If the average true range in the euro dollar today is, let me just actually check what the average true range in the euro dollar is today. It's 90.8 pips, right? So that's the average true range of the euro dollar today based on the last 20 days of price movement. A week ago, it might have been 60 pips, right? The week before that, it might have been 45 pips, the daily average range. So if today's average range, of late is 90 pips, and a couple of weeks ago it was 45, the market is moving 100% more now than it was back then. So trailing a stop loss after you're up 20 pips, for example, might have meant something back then. Prices moved half of the day's ATR. But now it's only moved quarter of the day's ATR. So why are you trailing a stop based on something so linear? So for me, stop trails are based on actual technical, a very specific technical indication I see on the chart. And it is so black and white that if that doesn't happen, I can't trail a stop. If it does, I can trail a stop. I'm not going, that structure looks good and it looks pretty bullish and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If a candle does this, I trail a stop behind it. Likewise, if price closes against me, beyond the reaction away from my entry, I get out of that trade. Nice and simple. Yeah. What that means is that my average loss size is about 0.6 R loss, and my average win is about 1.3 R to 1.4 R profit. Nice. So, okay, you might look at my average winners and go, so he only makes like just over 1 R on his winners on average. Yeah, that's right. But my losses are also less than half of that.
Right.
So my win-loss ratio is 2. It's more than 2. So I'm balling.
You're balling on 2R basically. Yeah, exactly. And but bro, this goes back to what I would say about the internet giving you the wrong ideas. You get into trading, you think you need 10R moves. You need every pip of every move. It's like, no, you need a strike rate that puts you in a profitable position based on what your average R is. That's it.
Listen, right? People are talking about making 40R months. I made 40R in 12 months, and I'm sitting pretty. I'm living pretty comfortably. I made 40R in the past 12 months.
But that's because people get into trade. They're undercapitalized. You know this. This is a big issue for traders. They're trading with a small account. They need 40R on the $5,000 in order to make any real money. You don't. If you have $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, you don't need 40R every trade. You need it in the year. Right.
Yeah. Or they have a strike rate that requires them to use, or they have a strategy rather that requires them to use like ridiculous stops, like 2 pips or 4 pips.
Right.
And so they're getting stopped out for a full 1 hour loss, 8 times before they hit a winner. Well, it's no wonder you need a 10-hour winner.
Right.
Yeah. So if you just improve your strike rate a little bit, try and get that up closer to 50%. My strike rate is only 44%. But the win-loss relation is there, and that's what's important.
Yeah. Keeping the winners bigger than the losers.
People do have this expectation where you need to be making 20R, 30R per month. If you just look at a compound interest calculator and look at how much money you would have if you make 20R every month and compound it for the next 2 years on $1,000, you know,
you could buy Glasgow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost. So you see how unrealistic it is, you know?
Of course.
Yeah.
I want to ask you 2 questions really quick too, Sam, because I know we've been going for a while. I don't want to keep you too much longer. Who's, other than Tom Dante, who's a really big influence on you?
Trader?
Give me a trader and then give me somebody that's not a trader.
Okay. A trader. See, this is pretty difficult because it's ICT.
I'm putting that at the front of the episode, bro. I'm putting that at the beginning. Everyone's gonna be like, no way.
Yeah, Sam confesses live on camera.
He pulls his shirt off. He has a picture of ICT on his shirt.
Yeah. No, in all honesty, Tom's like been the main influence on my trading. Now, there are also some other traders like Dr. David Paul. You know, I remember hearing him, guy from Northern Ireland, old guy, proper old school. I remember hearing him say, you know, back your winners in an interview. And I was like, that sounds great. How'd I do that? You know, that's all he said, you know. He was like, you know, you have to really back your winners. And I'm like,
yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I'm writing it down. Write my affirmations. I will back my winners, you know.
Right.
Like, sounds right. I don't know how to do it. But David Paul, Steve Ruffley, he's been a bit of an influence on my trading as well. But all in all, you know, I don't really take much influence from people, in all honesty. Obviously, in life, you know, family and that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't really look up to people.
Are you a big sports guy?
I don't really put people on a pedestal. No.
Okay.
Remember, I was a chubby kid.
Chubby kid. You were picked last for kickball. I get it. I wouldn't like sports either.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so that's good. That was one of my questions. Big influence to you. And then, what was my last question? It slipped my mind.
You should have said, Sam, you should have said Jesus then, if for the big influence.
Well, yeah, I mean, I that would be an influence, but he's more of an influence. You know, he's more than an influence to me. You know,
it's true.
I don't see Jesus as like some historical character that I'm just gonna like. I'd like to be like him. No. You know, are you a Christian as well, James?
I am. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I mean that's an interesting story in and of itself. I'm sure you'll hear about it on the Words of Wisdom podcast. We spent about 14 minutes talking about, you know, me coming to faith and all that kind of stuff, how all that played out. Because, you know, I wasn't really a Christian like 3 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. I grew up kind of believing in God, but I wasn't born again until 3 years ago. So that was a roller coaster ride. But since then, never looked back. It's been awesome.
Yeah. It's awesome.
I'd love to hear it. We'd have to get you on again, Sam.
Yeah, Sam. The conversation could just run. You've given us a lot of stuff here today, man. So we'll wrap it here for the first episode. I really appreciate you, bro, and I'm really glad that we got to connect. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I might be coming to you one day for an introduction to have Tom on the show. That's one of our legendary guys that we need to have on the podcast. So I might need an intro, because, you know, Tom does not talk to people very often. So for you to have a relationship with him is pretty fucking rare.
I could let you hear a couple of voice notes that would probably destroy your hopes of ever having him on the podcast.
He's never going to do it.
He's literally he has told me categorically he just doesn't do interviews or podcasts anymore. And ultimately, I don't blame him. He keeps to himself. He's a pretty quiet dude. He just kind of stays in his own lane.
Yeah. I mean, as he should. He has the reputation that speaks for himself. So he does not need to say anything.
But one thing I will say, you know, and I'll say this to wind Tom up, something you may not know about Tom Dante is that Tom actually used to be an actor when he was a kid.
No way.
If you look hard enough, you'll find some episodes.
Oh, way to give everybody something to go look at. Listen, maybe you gotta send this. You gotta email this to Tom when we put it up, so he knows, so he gets to listen to it. Okay.
He was the main character in that RCT movie in the bank.
No, I mean he's if you look hard enough and if you know Tom's real second name, you'll find it.
There you go. Okay. We'll leave people with that to still give Tom some anonymity and privacy. We'll leave it there.
I'm so sorry, Tom.
That's so good, bro. I love it. Listen, Sam, it's been great, bro. It's really good to connect with you. Really good to meet you. We wish you the best of luck going forward. You know, we're watching and going to just continue to wish you success and continued growth. So we'll definitely connect throughout the year and maybe have you on towards summer, towards the end of the year, and do another one, see how things are going, see if you're back in the office, see if you're still at home, see if you how you're liking the lifestyle changes and things like that.
See if I've been assassinated by ICT or Tom.
Right. Exactly, bro. If not by then you might be converted to a fanboy. You'll be a born again ICT maybe the next time I talk to you.
Yeah, I highly doubt it.
Highly doubt it. No, this has been great, bro. So for everybody listening, watching, I'm going to put Sam's everywhere you can connect with Sam. Website, Twitter, all that. Instagram will be tagged down below in the description wherever you're watching or listening. Sam, again, bro, thank you. James, thank you as well, bro. Really, really good stuff today. And for everybody listening, watching, we appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next episode.